again, if you can, just fill up those gaps that are in front of you. It will just help allow others to come into the majlis when they arrive, inshallah. Just try and fill up those gaps in front of you. I know it may get a little bit busy, but the ajr that you will get for allowing others to attend the majlis of Imam Husayn is very special. Ahsantum. And is the young brother who just recited still here? For this young man, I think he's an inspiration to us, especially on the night of Ali al-Akbar, to dedicate his time to focus to learn how to recite something like that in such a beautiful way is no doubt a testament firstly to his parents, but also a signal to us that this love of Ahlul Bayt can penetrate the youngest of hearts. And if we imagine, inshaAllah, with all of our du'as on this night, that we ask Allah to grant him even more hidayah, so that he can continue in this service of Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam with the most sincere intention, inshaAllah, and to fill his soul with the love of Ali Muhammad. I kindly ask you to offer a salawat ala Muhammadin wa Ali Muhammad. Sallallahu alayhi wa أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد صلى على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المأسومين المذلومين واللعنة الله على أعدائهم من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين وصلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا لثارات الحسين يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب العصر والزمان صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. It hurts my heart that I can see a lack of attention to offer salawat for our awaited Savior. So in honor of Ali al-Akbar, the one who we commemorate tonight, a salawat that is in line with his focus in life, in line with his dedication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As adults, our youngsters look up to us, and when they see that we're lazy with our salawat, they'll also be lazy. So let's inspire them in the way that Hussein inspired Ali al-Akbar with a salawat that reaches that beloved chest of Hussein in Karbala. Salla ala Muhammadin wa Ali Muhammad. My dearest elders, my sisters, my brothers, Salamun alaykum wa rahmatullah. Millions of people across the world have been commemorating Imam al-Husayn year after year, and frankly we just see the number growing. We see displays of love that no other event is able to pull. You can't find another event that inspires people to serve food for 80, 90 kilometers, and that's me being modest with the distance. Because even when you go beyond Najaf towards Basra, even to some of the border areas of Iran, you still find people serving food to those who are walking to Abi Abdullah al-Husayn. We see grown men who have been listening to this story for the 100th time, 200th time, 300th time, who knows, still weeping, even sobbing. There's so much love, there's so much ishq, there's so much mahabba in this journey of Hussein that it attracts the attention of the enemies of Allah even till today. They'll do many things to try and silence us, but for every single person that they try and silence or kill, unfortunately for them, we're just another seed that drops into the soil and grows another tree, which inhibits another lead of seeds, another set of seeds, another set of seeds. And we're the results of these seeds, of those who loved Abi Abdullah hundreds of years ago. Somehow this message has been kept so sacred and sanctified, and it's now entered our hearts. So now they're trying a different approach. If death doesn't work, let's raise doubts. Let's tell them that the marja'iyah is not necessary. And let's also tell them that this crying for Imam al-Husayn that you have is too excessive. Should you really be mourning him this much? Is this even Islam, this crying for Husayn? And for some of us, these seeds of doubts have started to make us question as well. They've wobbled us a little bit. Do we really need to cry for Imam this much? Shouldn't I just attend, be at ease, and go home, and so long as I'm a good Muslim, then everything's okay? It's a very big dilemma. Because if you suddenly start to agree that, yeah, this tear doesn't mean much, it's not necessary, I shouldn't nurture my child to learn how to cry for Imam al-Husayn, then their hearts become harder and harder and harder by the day. And eventually they may enter a majlis of Husayn, and may Allah never allow this to happen to us, and they'll hear the masa'ib of Husayn, and we won't be able to shed a tear. We said that this ship of salvation is awsa wa asra. It is the most spacious, and it is the fastest. And if a tear is the ticket to get on, then may Allah allow us to drown ourselves with the tears of Abi Abdullah al-Husayn, Sayyid al-Shuhada, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh. Tonight I would like to take whatever shak, whatever doubt is in my mind or any of our minds about these tears of Husayn being valueless, and put it to bed. So that anyone in this room will stand up strong in front of their families and say, we must cry and weep for Husayn ibn Ali. How? We'll start by going back to some basics that you may have heard me say last year. So forgive me for those of you who did attend the lectures last year, but hopefully it's a nice recap. Just a few minutes to get us back onto the page on proving that the love of Ahlul Bayt is necessary. We'll then look at what does love actually look like in practicality. We'll then try and understand, is it only us as the humans that weep for Abu Abdullah? And if not, if we find that it is the creation beyond just mankind that weeps for Abu Abdullah, how can this be the case? Because they come at us and say, this is a bit too poetic. These hadith have been influenced by a group of very passionate people. No, we'll prove to you that even in the Quran, you see a same level of passion for stories that you could argue are lesser calamitous than that of Abi Abdullah, and we'll see how legitimate this is from a Quranic perspective. And finally, we'll see, is it just crying that is necessary? Or is it deep weeping that even made one of our prophets turn blind? If you would like to go on this journey and to open your hearts fi hadhihi al-layla, on this night, for the night of Ali al-Akbar, where I believe that Abi Abdullah al-Husayn had one of the toughest moments in Karbala, then kindly offer salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands the Holy Prophet, قُل, go and say, O Muhammad, لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. Say, O Prophet, I do not ask any reward for it, i.e. this message that I've delivered to you, إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ, for who? قُرْبَى, except deep venerating love for my kinship. Is the Quran lying? Is that the new argument they'll put against us? The Quran asks the Prophet, or commands the Prophet, go and announce that love for the kinship is required. If love wasn't valuable, then why does the Quran ask for it? Surely it could have been, for this message, go and offer deep prayers. Would have been very valid. Go and offer Hajj, would have been very valid. Go and give khums, would have been very valid. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it explicit. قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ, for the qurba. If love was valueless, why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala command for this? But then they may say this is a one-off incident. Okay, fine. Even if you think the Quran is wrong, وَلَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ, why does Allah then even command Nabi Ibrahim to talk about love? He tells him in 1437, therefore make the hearts of some people yearn towards them and provide them with fruits happily that they may be grateful. Give them this love and this passion. If love and passion was valueless, why does the Quran command Prophet Muhammad and Nabi Ibrahim to ask for it for their generations? The kinship, showing love for them, is a commandment from the Quran. We believe deeply in every word of the Quran being haqq. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the Holy Prophet saying, وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ. This man doesn't speak out of desire. What does that mean? He doesn't do anything out of desire. Everything that he does, إِنَّ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَى. It's nothing except revelation from Allah. When the Prophet walks in a certain manner, it is Allah telling you, walk in this manner. When the Prophet wears a certain type of mask, it's a command to you, go and wear this type of mask. When the Prophet prays on earth rather than carpet, it's a compulsory command, go and pray on earth rather than man-made material. When the Prophet kisses the cheek of Husayn, it is an illustration. This love for Husayn from the Prophet is nothing but revelation. When the Holy Prophet throws a rock in battle, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that is not you throwing, O Muhammad. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. Actually, this is Allah throwing, i.e. any action that the Prophet does is an action that Allah wants him to complete. He kisses the cheek of Husayn, this is a ni'mah from Allah. He mourns for Husayn, this is a ni'mah from Allah. Anything he does or says is a revelation to us. So when we see the plethora of narrations that the Prophet would play with Imam al-Hasan and Imam al-Husayn at a young age, there is nothing but revelation in this for us. It's not like the opposing point of view who say the Prophet had an apostolic life, a life that was focused on his messengership, and then another life that was his home life. No, every single second was revelation. When he plays with Imam al-Hasan and Imam Husayn, there's a reason. He's trying to tell us there is a significance behind these individuals, and this is not from me, this is from my Lord. Ibn Abbas narrates that the Holy Prophet sought protection for Imam al-Hasan and Imam al-Husayn. And he asked for protection in the following way. He's reported to say, I seek by the perfect words of Allah from all evils, from all devils and poisonous creatures, and from all the envious eyes. And he used to say, Ibrahim used to invoke protection in his way for his sons, both Ismail and Ishaq. The Prophet does the same. He treats Hassan and Hussein like his own children, not like his grandchildren. So we have to think, what is the significance behind the Prophet holding these two young sons in such high regard? Was it accidental? Or does it line up with قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى? This is his action. And those are the words of the Quran. They go side by side. The least we can do is at least ponder over why he has this love for them. There is a very powerful hadith from the Holy Prophet that gives us a clue as to why this love of Ahlul Bayt is so necessary. A hadith that can change lives, a hadith that can open our minds. And if you would like to engage and be in the presence of Rasulullah, offer a salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. The Holy Prophet comes out with some profound words for our hearts and souls to pay close attention to. He's reported to say, whoever dies on the love and Muhammad and Ali Muhammad has died a shaheed. What is the best way to die in this life? Shaheed. Whoever dies on the love of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad has died a shaheed. And then he repeats that first line, that they've also died forgiven, that they've also died repentant, they've also died as a believer of full faith, and they've also died as an individual who will receive glad tidings of paradise from the angel of death, then from Munkar and Nakir. They've died while forgiven. They've died whilst Allah will make the angels of the All-Merciful to be the visitors of his grave, and two doors from paradise will open into his grave. Was this love just accidental, or did this love have depth, meaning, substance? All in the ghaib. So if you're living in a dunya world still, then this means nothing. If you're living in a ghaibi world now, if your eyes are seeing life to help you see the next life, this is like a big deal. But the Prophet doesn't stop there. He makes this point abundantly clear. Indeed, whoever dies on the hatred of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, he will come on the day of judgment with an inscription on his forehead, despair of God's mercy. That he will die a disbeliever and he will never smell the fragrance of paradise. May Allah allow us to die on the path of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So what does this love look like? Our scholars tell us that there are three types of love. There's a desirous love, there's a human love, and there's an innate love. The desirous love is one that is like lust, the one that we should try our best to avoid. The one that is human love is the love that you have for your parents, for your children, for your wife, for your husband. And the innate love is the love from within. It's the love of the fitrah. It is the love for perfection. It is a love that has a desire to find anything that is perfect, that has excellence and is beauty. Allah says, وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ. Indeed, He is an avid lover of good. It is natural within us. Why do we love Allah? Why do we find ourselves attracted to Allah? Because He is the supreme version of perfection. He is beyond this level of perfection. Therefore, why do we love Ahlul Bayt? Because they are the physical representations of absolute perfection. We're naturally drawn to them. It's in our innate nature to go towards them. The ship of salvation invites us all. Our souls want to be there. And this is true because it doesn't even apply just to the Shi'as. I remember once in London we had something called the Imam Husayn conference that I was lucky enough to host. And there was one specific individual who I'll never forget. He was a reverend. You can Google him. Reverend Nadim Nasser. Christian, Reverend Nadim Nasser from Syria. He got up and spoke for 20 to 30 minutes on Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam. A reverend. I then invite him to the university in Birmingham. We had an event about Sayyidah Maryam from the perspective of the Christian lens and the Islamic lens. Again, we're speaking about Imam Husayn with him. This love of Ahlul Bayt to anyone that has an open heart, it's natural because they just see perfection. That's all they see in them. So how do we show this love? If we're drawn towards them, if we love them, how do we show it? Our dear sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far and Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajah. Imam al-Sadiq clarifies it for us within a dua. وَبَذَلُوا مُهْجَدَهُ فِيكَ لِيَسْتَنْقِذَ عِبَادِكَ مِنَ الْجَهَالَةِ وَحَيْرَةِ الضَّلَالَةِ. If you want to demonstrate your love, Imam al-Sadiq says this is how you do it. Go and look at how this person died. He offered his blood for your sake, so that your servants could come out of their state of ignorance and remove the yoke of misguidance. If you want to show love for Ali Muhammad, you must verbalize it and you must manifest it. If you want to show bara'ah from the enemies of Ahlul Bayt, you must vocalize it and you must manifest it. The love is natural within us, but it requires movement. Many of us blokes, we say, yeah, we love our wife. When was the last time we bought them a bouquet of flowers? I'm doing you guys a favor. When was the last time we made dinner for them? That's probably not a favor from the way that these guys cook as well, from what I've understood. When was the last time that our actions deeply showed just how much we loved our wife or our husband? It's all well and good saying it on the message, sending the emoji. That's the easy way. The action speaks volumes. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam mentions ignorance. That it's coming out of ignorance, getting rid of this yoke of misguidance. And Imam al-Hasan tells us what this ignorance is. He says ignorance, he says there is no poverty like the ignorant one. Ignorance being you've seen the light, you've been invited to the ship, you've arrived at the docking station, but you still don't want to get on. This is ignorance. Ignorance from the word ignore. You've been invited, you don't want to. You don't fancy it. You say that this love of Ali Muhammad is so important to my family, but I don't want to do anything to change myself to create an environment that is godly within my household. Husayn's sacrifice was to take us min al-dalala, from this oppression, from this darkness of our own souls. But we don't just ignore. We don't just ignore. Ignorance can be of two types. Either you are walking past the majlis and you don't know that it exists. Passive ignorance. Then there's active ignorance. Then there's being present in the majlis of Husayn, hearing the words of the teachings of Ali Muhammad and deciding with conviction, I still don't want to change. Then we can't get on the ship. We just can't. It's as simple as that. One way to come out of this ignorance is to embody this love verbally and manifesting of Ali Muhammad. And I'd like to make a very, very, very important point, very loud and clear. And the poor youth had to get a bit of a drumming from me today. And as I said, I disclaimed it with I love you, as all parents do, and then they give them a berating. But it was with love. And I'm going to give it to the parents as well. I remember when I was growing up, that the religion was somewhat cultural to me. You wear black, Muharram. You wear white in Sha'ban. 15th of Sha'ban was like the day I was not looking forward to because the a'mal was too long. So I had to find places to hide. Or I had to be busy doing the shoe racks. Or I had to be busy in London. I remember distinctly in Muharram it would always be freezing because it was winter time when I was growing up. So it would have ice forming on the top of this big marquee that we had, and there would be puddles everywhere. So you'd go around trying to dry the puddles. So at least I was around in the majlis, but I didn't care what this guy was saying. Probably like some of you, who is this guy? But there was something there that at some point in my life brought me in and made me want to sit, even for 5 minutes, for 15, for 20, that made me start to think. This khidmah of Ahlul Bayt, this service of Ahlul Bayt, as we've seen from our dear young brother, ignites something in you. Sometimes you have no idea why you're doing this khidmah, but you feel an energy like no other. You ask these amazing ulama, how do you get all this time to read and read and read and analyze and study and study? They're like, we don't know. You ask organizers of ziyarat trips, how do you get all the time to do this, the stress? I don't know, something. There is something so special about this service. If you want your children to have this love, this mawaddah for the qurbah that Allah commands you to have, get them involved in the service of Husayn. Don't let them be lazy. And if you don't want them to be lazy, get up off the couch yourself and show them the way. Here's how we serve Husayn every week. I don't want to go to the majlis on Thursday. You're coming with me on Thursday. Get them in. Let them do something. Just get them in. Get them involved. Don't be lazy. And I said to the youngsters, and I'll say this to you as the adults, next year, inshallah, when Allah grants us the rizq to hold this majlis, inshallah, in the presence of our awaited Savior, I really, really hope that there is a youngster coming up here and reciting Quran. I really hope that our dear younger brother and other younger brothers who have been training their voices for the recitation of Husayn are up here reciting with the guest reciter. I really hope we see more Sabil stands outside just here with the youngsters getting up night and day, really late, they're tired, but they feel a burning love within them to serve Husayn. I really hope we have a slot for a youngster for 5 minutes to read out a hadith that meant something to them, and guided by a scholar, they explain what this hadith means to them. Let's lift our youngsters. Look at the gift that we've been given in this hall. Subhanallah, last year when our blessed organizer said, I think we may need to ask all the brothers and sisters if you can again, just shuffle forward if you can with the salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. May Allah reward you for all of the difficulty that you go through in the memory of Sayyid al-Shuhada Aba Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam. Salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. I remember the organizers last year saying, Sadiq, listen, Karachi, English, we're not sure. It's a bit of a gamble. Gambling is haram. But gambling in the name of Imam Hussein, no, I'm not, you know what I'm saying. Taking a chance on Imam Hussein. Always take a chance on Imam Hussein. If you're unsure, conviction in Imam Hussein. What happens? Night one, packed. And we're already thinking, how do we find more space? This year, Sadiq, listen, this center's very far away. It's in a very dark area. Inshallah, maybe on the first night, 25 people. No problem, 2, 3, 5, I don't care. Now look at this place. Shuffle forward, shuffle forward, shuffle forward. You want to see the ghaib in action? Look at how packed this hall is with the lovers of Al Muhammad. From one side of the bridge in Karachi to the other side of the bridge in Karachi. One thing unites us, and it's not the love of cricket, it's the love of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Ya Ali ibn Abi Talib. Get this love in your children. Get them active, get them busy, but you need to show the way. And this is why the Holy Prophet tells us, discipline your children upon 3 traits. The love of your Prophet, the love of his progeny, and the recitation of the Quran. Get those tongues in remembrance of these words and the walking words. Train them to be Quran reciters, Noha Khans, cooks. I want to see youngsters dealing with the AV next year. I want to see youngsters building these alams. I want to see youngsters getting the red lights. I want to see them hoovering this place next year. And I can't wait to receive the WhatsApp videos and to say I'm so happy to see these young servants of Hussein. And may they die in the service of Hussein as well. Let's not be passive. Let's not be lazy. That's not what these guys taught us. They get up and they move. Being lovers of Al Muhammad has characteristics. Amir al-Mu'mineen tells us, surely Allah has chosen for us followers. Look at the wording of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He's chosen for us followers. You're chosen to be a follower of Ahlul Bayt. Surely Allah has chosen for us followers who assist us. They're happy at our happiness and they're sad at our sadness. When the news of the death of Hussein was given to the Holy Prophet, he immediately goes to Sayyida Zahra. He's in such a condition, according to the biography of Imam Hussein that we have, that his steps were heavy and full of grief, and sorrow had enveloped him. Accidental? No. Illa wahyun yuha. This is revelation. The fact that the Prophet is in a state of grief is a lesson. Oh my Shia, be in a state of grief for Hussein. He's in a choked voice, the biography says, and he calls out, "Oh Asma, get me my child." Asma hands over the child to Rasulullah. The Holy Prophet takes him into his arms and kisses him. Again and again, while all the time he is weeping. Illa wahyun yuha. This is revelation. Asma becomes worried. May my parents be sacrificed on you. Why are you lamenting? The Holy Prophet replies with his eyes filled with tears, I am weeping for this son of mine. Weeping wasn't limited to just one prophet or to just one era. The Holy Prophet's reported to say, may Allah's la'an be on the people who will murder you, my son. They asked, who will kill him? He said, the remainder of the rebellious faction of the Bani Umayyah, may Allah's la'an be on them. Illa wahyun yuha. Okay, so this could just be a normal event of the Prophet just initially learning about this, so now he's sad. When we receive sad news, it's a one-off. You're sad and then you get over it. He emphasizes this so many times in his life. His family emphasize this so many times in their life. Either you are blind to the history because you haven't read it, or you're blind out of active ignorance. There must be some azamah, there must be some greatness behind this mourning for Hussein if the Holy Prophet does this. Especially when you take into account the Prophet's patience against the munafiqun, the patience of the Prophet in battle, the amount of difficulty he's seen and been through, yet this reduces him to tears. If we say that the Prophet, for example, happened to just be emotional in this moment, then we need to justify why the other prophets who wept for Hussein were also in this state. Yes, other prophets also weep for Hussein. We see a beautiful conversation between Nabi Ibrahim and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as cited by Shaykh Sadiq in his Uyun al-Akhbar al-Rida. Nabi Ibrahim, as we all know, is tested. He's commanded, go and sacrifice your son Ismail. He eventually gets the strength to go and do this, and Allah replaces Ismail with a ram. According to Shaykh Sadiq, one of our dear, most esteemed classical scholars, his narration says that this happened thereafter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to Ibrahim, O Ibrahim, who is the most beloved of my creation to you? Ibrahim replies, O Allah, you have not created a creation more beloved to me than your beloved Muhammad. Allah asks him, O Ibrahim, is Muhammad more beloved to you, or is yourself more beloved? Ibrahim says, rather, he is more beloved to me than my own self. Allah says, is his son more beloved to you, or your son Ismail? Ibrahim says, rather his son. Allah then says, so is the murder of his son unjustly at the hands of the enemies more painful to your heart, or the killing of your son by your hand in obedience to me? Ibrahim says, Ya Rabb, his murder at the hands of his enemies is more painful to my heart. Allah then tells Ibrahim, O Ibrahim, a group that claims to be from the nation of Muhammad will kill his grandson Husayn after Muhammad's passing, unjustly and out of transgression, like the slaughtering of a sheep. And they will incur my wrath for this. Ibrahim was despaired. His heart was pained. And he began to weep. And Allah reveals to him, O Ibrahim, you have ransomed your despair for your son Ismail had you killed him with your hands, with your despair for Husayn and his murder. As a result, you have earned the greatest levels of reward for that. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَفَدَيْنَاهُ بِذِبْحٍ عَظِيمٍ, and we ransomed him with a great sacrifice. It was Husayn all along. Nabi Muhammad weeps for Husayn. Nabi Ibrahim weeps for Husayn. Coincidence? Or illa wahyun yuha, nothing but revelation. We see further concepts like this with Nabi Adam, Nabi Nuh, Nabi Ismail, Nabi Zakaria, and even others. Such pure individuals weeping for Husayn. Is this a coincidence? Or is it just that it doesn't fit your narrative that you wish to tell us that it's a coincidence? Mankind has wept for Sayyid al-Shuhada since the beginning of time. But that was mankind. Did the other creations of Allah ever weep for Husayn? Just a quick show of hands. How many of you are aware of the book Kamil al-Ziyarat? Please raise your hands. If you're familiar with the book Kamil al-Ziyarat, please raise your hands. Okay. 1 woman, 2 men. Maybe some other shy ones. This book, purchase it and put it on your shelf and read 1 hadith a week with your family. It explains the azama, the greatness, the ajr, the reward of the ones that do ziyarah of Ahlul Bayt and weep for Ahlul Bayt. And let your mind be blown. If there is even a donor in this room that's saying, yes, I will pay to have copies of Kamil al-Ziyarat distributed, then make yourself known towards the end. This will be one of the greatest thawab jari that you could leave. Within Kamil al-Ziyarat, we learn that the angels weep for Abi Abdullah al-Husayn. Someone's asked, why do you not go to the grave of Husayn? Surely 4,000 angels weep over his grave until Yawm al-Qiyamah. The jinn are reported to weep and even recite poetry about the Imam. The heavens and the earth, Amir al-Mu'mineen was sitting in the mosque and his companions were surrounding him when Imam al-Husayn walked in. Imam Ali puts his hand over his son's head and says, my son, God disparaged communities in the Quran by saying, so neither the sky wept for them nor the earth, nor were they granted any respite. By Allah, they will kill you after my passing, then the earth and the sky will weep for you. If we didn't discuss the ghaib, these concepts would be baffling to us. The ghaib weeps for Sayyid al-Shuhada. Mankind weeps for Sayyid al-Shuhada. Sayyid al-Shuhada gives everything, so Allah has to give equal or more in return to him. The first conclusion that we can take, my dear brothers and sisters, is that there are so many different hadith narrating that mankind all over, and all of the jinn and all of the angels and all of the creations of Allah weep for Husayn, that because there are so many of them, it must reach the level of mutawatir. It must be beyond all reasonable doubt that if we have so many different people testifying to it, that it must be true. And if we can't fully comprehend the concept, we can't act like Mr. Smarty Pants and go, this seems a bit extreme, therefore I reject it. No. What seems extreme is the amount of ahkam and hajj. You can't just reject them. Just because your mind can't fathom that there is going to be the entire creation, or there has been the entire creation weeping for Husayn, you can't just sweep it aside. You need to logically disprove it using the sciences. The second thing we realize is that Husayn is killed in the dunya, correct? This is a sin of mankind, yet it has an impact on creation other than mankind. We realize that there's now a relationship with our actions, with the actions of those around us, with the skies, with the sun, with the jinn, with the angels. We'll look at this in more detail. And the third thing that we see is that this weeping knew no time nor no place. From Adam until Khatam, the entire creation will continue to weep for Husayn. In fact, the narrations say until Yawmul Qiyamah. And even on that day, read Kamil al-Ziyarat to see how Sayyida Zahra acts on this day and asks about this blood-stained shirt of Hassan, Abi Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam. But we're intellectual human beings. This seems too crazy for us. How can the sky weep? How can the angels weep? This can't be true, they say. It's too far-fetched. I'm just going to share one proof. There are a load in the book by Sayyid Ali al-Hakim, which I can give you the reference for if you're interested, in English, and you can read it on Amazon tonight if you want on Kindle. Just one proof I'll give. We're asserting that the actions of humankind can influence the actions of the other creation in the ghaib and in the dunya. The Quran makes it very clear that this has happened many times before, and we shouldn't be shocked. In the same way that they deny, how can the Imam be in the ghaib? Tell me about Nabi Isa. You accept the Quran, but when it comes to a principle established about Nabi Isa, you don't want to apply it to someone else. Ajib. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in surah number 72, verse number 26, Allah revealed that if they had remained on the straight way, we would have given them abundant rain. If they had done an action to stay on Sirat al-Mustaqim, then Allah will make the clouds rain. Our actions in dunya, Allah can see them and make other things happen. It is well within His power, and He does so many times. Being steadfast, this community is told, will bring an abundance of rain. You kill Husayn, the skies will now weep. Why is it so tough to believe? Unless you're now rejecting the Quran because you don't believe the Quran is up to date today. The Quran emphasizes that obedience to divine commands leads to not just moral, not just spiritual, but worldly benefits. Look at the people of Hud. Allah says in the Quran 11:52, and O people, O my people, ask for forgiveness of your Lord and then repent to Him. He will send rain from the sky upon you in showers. No, I don't want to accept this one either. Okay, now your active ignorance is clear and manifest. Khuda Hafiz. Not just positive, but also negative parts of the Quran, negative parts of our actions are illustrated in the Quran. We can therefore conclude that there must be a direct correlation and link between creation and humanity and the rest of the world. And these are not affected by time either. The Holy Prophet was a mercy to mankind. No, he is a mercy to mankind. He will forever be a mercy to mankind. He was a mercy to those that lived before him, to those that lived with him, and to those that live today, and furthermore. If an action is done Can it then be undone? Yes, in some cases, but not in all cases. Why do I say this? I'm trying to tease you to read this book about Imam al-Husayn. The concept of whether we can forgive the killers of Hussein is discussed in this book. Unfortunately, now we're seeing some people trying to put out statements to say, forgive everyone. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran explicitly states that His extra mercy is withdrawn from certain individuals, who dare are we to say, to tell Allah to stop this? Go and read the book if you want to engage your intellect. But is such intense weeping allowed? Fine, we said the Prophet cried. Actually, it said weep. Let's say that he cried. We don't know how much he cried. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it very clear with Nabi Yaqub. He takes a case study of Nabi Yaqub for us. Just to introduce Nabi Yaqub, Allah says in the Quran, إِنَّ اللَّهَ اصْطَفَى آدَمَ وَنُوحًا وَآلَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَآلَ عِمْرَانَ عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ ذُرِّيَّةً بَعْضُهَا مِنْ بَعْضٍ وَاللَّهُ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. Indeed, Allah chose Adam and Nuh and the family of Ibrahim and the family of Imran over the worlds, descendants, some of them from others, and Allah is hearing and knowing. I.e., Allah divinely selected these specific prophets. Why? Because of their adab, their etiquette, their sinless nature. The fact that they can be an example from all generations, including now. Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam is at a level whereby his actions are always in tune with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the divine will and the command. Otherwise, Allah wouldn't have cited him and his family within the Quran. I.e., anything that Nabi Yaqub does is something of the divine will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Quran says, he turned away from them and said, "Oh my sorrow over Yusuf," and his eyes became white from grief, for he was a suppressor. Yaqub alayhi salam, the one whose actions are aligned with Allah, cries until his eyes are white and he is blind. You could say this sorrow could be unnatural. It could be unreasonable. This isn't allowed. Again, who are you to say that it's not allowed? Did the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam come and say that Yaqub was wrong? No. You could say, when has an individual ever wept over someone for this long? The answer comes from the speaking Quran, the Ahlul Bayt. Imam Sadiq reported to say the sorrow, when he was asked to quantify the loss of Yaqub, he says the sorrow of 70 grieving mothers over their children. Why would Nabi Yaqub, from a family so highly tested with challenges, handle an incident like this? In fact, bizarrely, if you like, the Quran praises Nabi Yaqub for his patience. What? You just said he was sobbing to the point where he becomes blind, yet the Quran praises him even still for his patience. The Quran says, no, your souls have made a matter seem decorous to you, yet patience is grateful. Maybe Allah will bring them all back to me. Indeed, He is the all-knowing and all-wise. How is the sorrow we just described patience? How does that work? And the Quran praises him for his patience. Even more strangely, Nabi Yaqub had submitted all of his affairs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he wasn't crying that he was worried. He wasn't crying out of anger. He wasn't crying blaming Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do we make sense of the fact that Nabi Yaqub has so much sorrow that he turns blind, yet is praised for his patience and his submission to Allah? Allama Tabatabai, who we mentioned the other day in his tafsir al-Mizan, which you can access some of it online in English, he gives us the answer. He says that the prophets never ever ever follow their whims. They never follow their desires. All of their emotions regarding the worldly affairs that they experience are in reality for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They seek nothing except Allah in these tears and these love that they shed. I.e., they may cry for a child, but that cry is taking them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're only going to knock on the door of Allah. They grow attached to that child, yes, but they're going towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through this child. Allama Tabatabai then goes on, he says, they will not be attached to a creation except that they are attached to Allah before, alongside and after it. This is their goal at all times. I.e., Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam's grief was not because of the loss of his son only, but rather it was the loss of Allah's divinely chosen prophet. Here in Karbala, we lose a divinely chosen Imam. If Yaqub can cry for a divinely chosen prophet and not be told that he was wrong, and in fact praised, if he can sob to the point of being blind, who are you to tell me that I can't sob for Husayn ibn Ali? His grief was due to the crimes that his own sons did against his son. Not because it was his son, rather this was a transgression against Allah himself. Was the act of Shimr not a transgression against Allah himself? He witnessed the crime directly. He wasn't upset about his son. Of course he was. He is a human. We can relate to him. In the same way that our dear Prophet, when he loses his son as a stillborn, he too is upset about this. If a prophet can cry and not be rebuked, then I can cry for the Imam and not be rebuked. And in Karbala, what sorrow and grief exists within all of the creation when we see this mammoth transgression against the divinely appointed leader in Abi Abdullah al-Husayn. A man who was inheritor of the prophets as per the ziyarat. Assalamu alayka ya Adam, ya waritha Adam safwatillah, waritha Ibrahim Khalilullah, waritha Nuhin. He is an inheritor of the prophets. He has the same attributes, even greater than the prophets. A man who the prophet says that I leave behind two weighty things, this Quran and my itra, as pure as this. A man who the Holy Prophet, when he is told in Mubahila to bring his own selves, he brings Amir al-Mu'mineen. When he's told to bring his women, he brings one woman in Zahra. When he's told to bring his sons, he brings al-Hasan and al-Husayn. The killers very much knew who this man was in front of them. They knew that this was a divinely chosen individual by Allah. And at no point in this do they show any remorse. In fact, after it, they go ahead and plunder his women and children of their possessions. My dear brothers and sisters, is the weeping of the skies and the heavens and the earth and the creation and the malaika and the jinn now a surprise? They weep from Adam until Khatam. What is more striking is our souls that are unable to shed a tear for Abi Abdullah al-Husayn because of our sins. And may Allah on this night grant us even one tear for Abu Abdullah al-Husayn. Why? Because Imam Sadiq says the sins of whoever cries, even as little as the width of a wing of a fly, when we are mentioned in front of him will be forgiven, even if his sins are greater than the scum within the sea. The companion of Imam al-Sajjad, Abu Hamza Thamali, comes towards Imam al-Sajjad. He sees Imam al-Sajjad in a state of despair. He tries consoling the Imam, reminding him of the great status that his father, Sayyid al-Shuhada, now has. He says to the Imam, Master, what is this weeping and despondency? Was your uncle Hamza not martyred? Was your grandfather Ali ibn Abi Talib not killed by the sword? Surely murder has become an expectancy for you, and martyrdom is an honor from Allah to you. The Imam replies to him, May Allah reward you for your efforts, O Hamza. He's reported to say, yes, it is as you mentioned. Murder has become an expectancy for us, and martyrdom is an honor from Allah to us. And at this point I ask you to lower your heads to reflect on the words of Imam al-Sajjad. No one should look at me. We're told even if you can't cry, at least look like you're in a state of despair. Cast your heads down, my dear brother and sister. May Allah grant you the tears of Zahra. Imam al-Sajjad then describes, however, O Abu Hamza, have your ears heard or have your eyes seen one of our women taken as captive or exposed before the day of Ashura? By Allah, O Abu Hamza, whenever I look at my aunts and my sisters, I remember them fleeing from one tent to the other, and from one tent to the another, while another calls the other, and the enemies call out, burn the homes of these oppressors. Oh, enemies, what homes? They're in tents. They're gharib in this land. They're women and their children, and you still attack them? Oh, mu'mineen. Yaqub cries for Yusuf until he turns blind. For how long, O Husayn, did you cry for Ali al-Akbar? Oh Husayn, I don't know how you handled this moment. This young prince of yours, how did you manage it? Mothers, fathers, you all have those dreams for your children, do you not? That one day you wish to see them married. That one day you hope that they'll pray over your grave, not the other way. That they'll take care of you in your old age. That one day you'll see their children so you have grandchildren to play with. I just wonder, oh Husayn, when you look towards Ali and al-Akbar, are these memories that you could have created now going through your head? You're a father at the end of the day. This is innocence. When no one was left with Imam al-Husayn except his family, they know that it's their time to step up. The youth know it's their time to step up. Qasim knows. Aoun knows. Muhammad knows. But the first man that emerges from the tents to take up this opportunity of shahada, either to Imam al-Husayn's happiness or to his distress, is the one who looked like the Prophet, whose voice was like the Prophet, and whose character was like the Prophet. Ali al-Akbar. The women surround Ali and al-Akbar. This is the last time that they're going to see this beautiful young resemblance of the Prophet. They say, Irham ghurbatana, have mercy on us as we are strangers in this land. فَلَيْسَ لَنَا طَاقَةٌ عَلَى فِرَاقِكَ. We cannot bear to see your loss, O Ali al-Akbar. Ali al-Akbar has to focus. He hears their pleas, but he takes the steps towards his father. Steps that no father should ever have to experience. Yes, some of us may have lost our children, and we may know individuals that have lost our children, but this isn't out of choice. Here is Ali al-Akbar looking his father in the eye saying, "Oh father, may I please proceed to the battlefield?" Does Husayn hug or does Husayn take him? He asks for permission to fight. And he takes one of the horses of Imam al-Husayn known as Lahiq, which means the one who catches up. The description about how Imam al-Husayn is now in this state whilst Ali al-Akbar goes towards the battlefield is unclear. But as parents we can hypothesize. I know as a father that when I see my child going towards danger, I will run after him. Here is Ali al-Akbar going towards the battlefield. Husayn, do you run after him or do you stay back? Husayn, do you pray for him to come back or do you pray for him to be successful? Husayn, do you tell him, Ali, watch out for that man, or do you watch out for this man? Oh Husayn, do you say, Ali al-Akbar, do you need a last sip of water? If so, come back to me. Ali ibn al-Husayn is reported to go out saying, Ana Ali ibn al-Husayn ibn Ali. نحن ورب البيت أولى بالنبي تالله لا يحكم فينا ابن الدعي أضرب بالسيف أحامي عن أبي ذرم غلام هاشمي علوي. That I am Ali, the son of Husayn, the son of Ali. He introduces himself. Be wary of me. I've been trained by my grandfather, Amir al-Mu'mineen. I swear by the Lord of the house that we are deserving of the Prophet. I strike with my sword, defending my father, striking bravely like a man from Hashim, from the children of Ali. I swear by Allah that the sinner will never rule over us. Husayn, here's the call of Ali al-Akbar. He looks towards him in pain, knowing that he would very shortly be killed in front of his eyes. He shouts towards Umar ibn Sa'ad, saying, what is wrong with you? May Allah kill your progeny like you're killing mine. You did not respect my relationship to Rasulullah. Prayers of Allah be on him, his family. May Allah send someone to slaughter you while you are in your bed. The Imam makes a dua to Allah for his dear son Ali al-Akbar. Ali goes into the battlefield. He strikes the enemies of Allah. He forces them to retreat. He kills 120 of their soldiers. However, this young 27-year-old man, what happens to him? Very innocently, perhaps due to the armor, due to the heat of the desert sun, he feels some thirst. Oh, my parents, when your children ask you for some water, have you ever said, I have none to give you? Have you ever said, I have no water for you, my child? I'm so sorry, I cannot help you. Cry, shed your tears for Husayn on this night. Don't hold back. He would say, oh Father, my thirst is killing me, and the heavy weight of this armor and this sword is making me tired. Maybe he would ask for some water. Husayn may say, who is there to help? Oh, soon you will meet your grandfather Rasulullah, and he will give you the most fulfilling drink, after which you will never feel thirsty again. Ali al-Akbar in the battlefield. He continues to fight the enemy with the bravery of his grandfather. He kills these people of Kufa. Historians tell us even up to 200 people, until one of the men, the enemies of Allah, the boys, the cowards, they say, I deserve the burden of the sins of all the Arabs. If I do not make this father suffer with loss, this man would sneak up behind Ali al-Akbar. What happens? Oh, Ali, are you struck with an arrow? No. Are you just struck? No. Are you just falling off your horse? No. It is said that this man comes from behind Ali al-Akbar. He is yielding a spear. He lodges the spear into the chest of Ali al-Akbar. He then strikes Ali al-Akbar on his head with a sword, such that the head of Ali al-Akbar is cut open. Ali goes onto his horse. It's said that the horse, in confusion, it doesn't take him back to Husayn. It takes him towards the enemy's camp. The enemies surround him and they start stabbing Ali al-Akbar with their swords. They cut Ali into pieces. Ali al-Akbar calls out to his father, Alayka minni salam ya Aba Abdullah. He says, هذا جدي قد ساقني بكأسه شربة. He has now given me a drink with his glass, after which I will not become thirsty ever again. And then he says this line that breaks my heart. وَهُوَ يَقُولُ إِنَّ لَكَ كَأْسًا مَذْخُورًا, that there is a glass ready for you, Husayn, as well. Husayn comes running towards Ali al-Akbar. My dear parents, when you wake your children up and you see that they're asleep and their body is there with their eyes shut, you shake their body and they wake up, do they not? Husayn throws himself on the body of Ali al-Akbar. In what state do you find the body of Ali al-Akbar, Aba Abdullah? Do you find him with the spear still within his chest? Husayn places his own cheek on Ali al-Akbar's cheek. He says, "Ala dunya ba'daka al-afa," that this world is not living without you. May Allah bless your tears. May Sayyida Zahra be here to collect your tears. He says, how dare they anger Allah and attack the sanctity of the Messenger? But this line breaks the hearts of the believers. O mu'mineen, O mu'minat, O parents, listen to this line, and O children, listen to this line. Husayn says, it is difficult on your grandfather and on your father that they call them, but they do not respond to you, or you ask for help from them, but they can't help you. Husayn fills his hand with the blood of Ali al-Akbar. He throws it to the sky. Not a single drop returns. Husayn, how do you bring the body of Ali al-Akbar back? You can't bring him yourself, for he's cut into so many pieces. Husayn orders his family members to carry the body of his son back to the tent. The women come out and they see the body of Ali al-Akbar. He's covered in blood. His body is cut, and they hit their chests out of grief. They shout in anguish with a cry that echoes across the whole universe. Oh Zainab, we hear your cry on this night. Oh, the mother of Ali al-Akbar, we hear your cry on this night. على لعنة الله على القوم الكافرين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. May Allah bless your tears, and on this night especially. On this night, do not hold back in your azar. As I said in the first few nights, and mashallah, we've done amazingly. You would never dare to leave a hall if it was your parents' funeral being remembered, or your friend's funeral being remembered. Do not leave unless you absolutely need to for your own personal reasons. But if you are able-bodied, stay and lament for Ali al-Akbar in honor of Sayyid al-Shuhada Aba Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam.